11 straight top 10 records, 3 #1 records. 1981, I was New Male Vocalist of the Year. 1983, I had the biggest selling record of the year. 1983, I was also one of the first country artists to ever play Wembley Stadium in London, and it's still going today. And that's the first time they'd ever had country music at Wembley. It had always been this big stuff, rock and all this kind of stuff. But me and Bobby Bear and Crystal Gale was the first one to play Wembley Stadium. They're making a big thing about it now about Taylor Swift is going over there playing. Y'all heard that on the news about Wembley Stadium. I put on the post, I said, yeah, we did that back in 1983. But I was in that. 1983, y'all know the Mellow Yellow Drink? Yeah. I wrote all the jingles. I wrote the TV commercials. I wrote everything for that. Come up with the music in 1983 when Coca-Cola came up with the idea of a Mellow Yellow Drink. I did all that back then. And everything was just on a roll for me. And had 9 gold albums. 1985, my net worth, I went from 1979, here from Ward, South Carolina, stone broke, didn't have a dime to my name. I had a little 69 Chevrolet Impala. Y'all remember them things? They look like a tank coming down the road, Sherman tank. Y'all remember them things? I had one. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all my kind of people now. But I had one of them things. I was so broke, didn't have no money. I was just playing nightclubs all around Columbia, South Carolina, Augusta, Georgia. Didn't have no money, broke. And that transmission went out on that thing. That thing wouldn't go forwards no more. There wasn't nothing wrong with that reverse in that thing, buddy. I learned how to drive that thing. It was like 4 miles to Johnson, South, where I live. 4 miles to Johnson, South Carolina, 4 miles to Ridge Spring, and 12 miles to Saluda from where I live. Let me tell you what, I had them roads burning up. I had that Sherman tank going down the road backwards everywhere I went. Problem I was having, after a while, people got to know it was me. But when I first started, people coming over, you would be surprised that the people run into ditches. They were everywhere. They didn't know what was coming down the road. I could get it. I could drive that thing as fast as it would go. I never even had to turn around. I got so good. I could look in that rearview mirror, my side mirror going, I could get it. This went on, because I didn't have no money to get it fixed. Then in 1980, I signed with RCA Records. 1985, my net worth was $18 million, and this was in 1985. That was a lot of money back then. It ain't nothing but pocket change now, but back in 1985, $18 million was a lot of money. I thought I had it made. Man, I had everything going for me. By the way, I don't know if y'all remember the old pop show that used to come on back in the early 80s called Houston Nights? It was a police show. If you'll think back, the guy with the long hair and the beard wore a t-shirt. The police informant on that was me. I was on Houston Nights. I was the police informant on that. And I had so many things going back then. And then traveling around all over the country. I was playing in Las Vegas, all over the world, all this kind of stuff. I didn't know what was going on, but I knew there was something that was missing in my life. You see, because I was a drunk, stone drunk. I thought that I was just a drunk. But RCA called me in one time. They said, listen, you got to get that drinking under control. And I said, I don't have to get it under control. I just like to drink. Ain't that kind of stupid? See, we get deceived. We deceive our own selves. But the devil is trying to deceive us, and we deceive our own selves. So I didn't think I had a drinking problem. But then, God's got a plan. He's always got a plan. He put me on a tour with Merle Haggard and Emmylou Harris. We did a 2-week tour, all out in the Midwest, all out in Kansas and all out in there. Back in those days, y'all, Kansas and places like that, they were called dry states. You couldn't buy alcohol in those states. Y'all know what I'm talking about? You couldn't buy alcohol in those days, back in those states. So I loaded up both of my tour buses. I had 2 tour buses, 13 people on the road. On both of my buses, we had it packed with bottles of vodka. I had vodka everywhere. If there was a hole, there was a bottle of vodka. I had enough vodka in there to last me for 2 weeks. But you know, God got a plan. Right towards the end of that 2-week tour that we was doing, the promoter decides he wants to extend the tour all out in the Midwest. And I kind of panicked. I said, oh my. I ran out, y'all. I ran out after a few days. I couldn't get anything. I've never experienced it. Like I said, I told the guy at RCA, I told y'all a while ago, I don't have a drinking problem, I just like to drink. That's a lie. I deceived myself. I was fooling myself. When I ran out, and I started experiencing things that I'd never experienced before. I just started sweating. I was freezing to death, sweating. Next thing I know, I started going into DTs. I didn't know what that was. I was going crazy. But then when it really came in, that's when I started having withdrawals. I'd never experienced anything like that. My band was ready to walk out on me. They was all ready to come home because I hated everybody. Couldn't get along with me. Because I really got bad. And then withdrawals, I wound up and I would be in the aisle of my bus, laying on the floor, crying, screaming, holding my belly. It's just like your gut just ties up in a knot and just keeps twisting and twisting and twisting. Never felt any pain like that before. I've had kidney stones and it didn't feel that bad. It was just like my gut was just twisting, my whole body was twisting. And I'd lay on the floor of the bus and I'd roll, I'd scream. And somebody told me, or told somebody in the band, he said, brown shoe polish. You remember the old bottles that had the thing where you paint your shoes? Brown shoe polish has got tons and tons of alcohol in it. I was willing to try anything. So we stopped at the store. Some of the guys went in and they got a bottle of brown shoe polish and brought it on the bus. I strained it. It's got all kind of muddy looking gook in it. But it don't change the color. But we strained it off. I was desperate. I turned it up and I drank it. It wasn't long after I drank it, I could feel my belly start relaxing a little bit. I said, this works, guys. We hit every store that we could hit. We was about all the brown shoe polish up. As we was traveling, every little town that we would go through, we'd stop at stores and the band would get on both sides of the street. We'd hit every store. Everywhere that you could buy shoe polish, we was buying it. Back in those days out in the Midwest, during that time, if you had brown shoes and you need to polish them too bad, you couldn't get none. I had it all. I had a bus load of it. But we strained that. And that's what I drank for 2 weeks, y'all, was brown shoe polish. My teeth were so stained, didn't even look like I had teeth. And that's how I made it through that 2 weeks. So we came back off of that,